Hello, friends, and welcome to my first episode of my podcast slash journal, I guess. The idea behind this is that I've always been interested in many different topics and fields, and I've always loved interesting conversations. So I've decided, you know what, maybe I can just record it. It will be great for me because I can always come back to any topic I want. Maybe I can even record some of the conversations I have with friends because we oftentimes talk about so interesting things and it can also be fun. So here we are, and I hope you will find this interesting as well. Give me any feedback you will have. I'm interested in what you have to say. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. Alright, so today's topic will be nostalgia, which is something I've been thinking about a lot, especially recently. In general, I would say that I am a pretty nostalgic person, and I was always fascinated by it. Even when I talked about it with friends and people close to me, I was always interested in why they felt it differently than me. Why did I felt it, for example, more frequently than them? What is that emotion trying to tell me? Stuff like that. So it was always in the back of my mind. And, because I've decided to invest my time into creating this podcast slash audio journal, I think this can be a pretty cool first topic. So let's dive in. Nostalgia is actually inspired by Greek story, by Homer's Odyssey, and it comes from Greek words nostos and algos. Nostos means return and algos means pain, which I guess for anybody who ever experienced nostalgia kind of makes sense. It also makes sense in relation to its origin from Odyssey, which is a story about, simply put, trying to get home to one own's homeland and loving wife and stuff like that. So it all makes sense. And although the term itself, nostalgia, was coined in 17th century, the reference to the emotion can be found in Hippocrates, Caesar, and the Bible as well, which is, wow, interesting. I had no idea, for example. Now, nostalgia in the past especially was equated to homesickness, which again makes sense. And the view of nostalgia went through different stages, I would say. First, it was perceived as a bad omen, then a medical disease, after the psychiatric disorder, as well as a variant of depression. However, the most recent research indicates that the overall signature of nostalgia and nostalgic narratives is positive, which is super interesting. Now, research also indicates that most frequent objects of nostalgia, meaning what is nostalgia most connected with, are close ones. For example, friends, close friends, or love interests, past or present, or family, for example. Secondly, events, which again can be connected to the close ones as well. And lastly, settings, for example, like sunsets or lake, stuff like that, usually in some combination, I guess. Now, as I mentioned, the overall signature of nostalgic narratives is positive, which for me was kind of a surprise because maybe I haven't viewed nostalgia in that way. However, it makes sense. Now, although there is evidence of sadness, bittersweetness, loss, disappointment, all of that in nostalgic memories, or not memories, nostalgic thoughts, I guess, nostalgic narratives. It's usually juxtaposed with, or put into contrast with, the positive, which is again the close ones, some heartfelt moments, events, some warm memories, for example, which in combination creates redemption, basically, which is a narrative going from bad emotions to the good ones. For example, I remember some example used in the research paper I read that, for example, it can be a memory of a family dinner, which starts out, you can remember the arguing and the stress of preparing the dinner, but as the memory or the narrative of the memory, the thought goes on, it ends with, for example, the whole family singing together or doing some activity together, and it fills you with joy, I guess, and warmth, which is what creates the, as they call it, the redemption in the narrative. And again, it indicates that the nostalgia is more positive than negative. Now, what triggers nostalgia? I think mostly anyone can guess this one, because the answer is that nostalgia is mostly triggered by negative affects, and most frequently loneliness. And that this is a claim that is research backed across all ages, from children to seniors. This fact is true. So loneliness plays a big part in triggering nostalgia. Let's keep that in mind, because what I found next was, for me at least, super fascinating. So nostalgia can actually be trying to counteract the distress that comes from loneliness and any other negative affects that can trigger it. Based on controlled studies and research done, nostalgia serves as sort of a storage or repository of positive emotions and affects, and it is most frequently characterized as a joyous experience, which gives rise to a feeling of elation. So, we've already well established that nostalgia generates some positivity, some positive emotions and affectivity. Moreover, nostalgia can also increase self-regard and strengthen social bonds, which again comes back to the point of remembering the loved ones, our close friends and family, and all the things we've been through with them. It reaffirms the ties or symbolic ties with our close ones. But if I come back to the point that nostalgia is trying to counteract the distress caused by some negative emotions, you can already start to see how that can work, right? Let's use loneliness as an example. So loneliness comes from, perceived lack of social support. Let's put it like that. And what we've established, loneliness is associated with nostalgia, or more precisely, loneliness triggers nostalgia. But what we've also already established is that nostalgia, in turn, triggers perception of social support, through the symbolic ties with our close ones, this feeling of social connectedness. And this, in turn, counteracts the sadness and the perceived lack of social support coming from loneliness. So we can see how that kind of works in a cycle, not of course continuous cycle, but loneliness triggering nostalgia, which is brain's mechanism trying to turn the negative emotion around by or through the nostalgic thoughts. Very, very interesting and very cool, in my opinion. Now, at this point, I was fascinated by what I've learned, what I've read, but believe it or not, there is more. Apparently, nostalgia can also help imbue life with meaning. And that is done primarily by because it increases the social connectedness, which is something we've already touched on. And moreover, nostalgia can also confer psychological benefits if you are, struggling with finding meaning in your life, either chronically or momentarily. It can help lower the stress, heighten the sense of self-regard, and also imbue you or give you a little bit more energy for living and feelings of aliveness, which is, I think, super cool. If I come back to the point about nostalgia helping imbue life with meaning, it's, as I mentioned, primarily done by increasing social connectedness, which basically means a sense of belonging and acceptance. It again affirms the bonds you have with close ones, with family or friends, but it also creates a sort of augmented view of self-continuity, which is, a cool way to say that it connects your past self with the present self. I don't know if it, is trying to make you remember that you've been through all of this, you've had all these cool memories and all these people that care about you, and you've lived with them through these cool events and stuff like that. But the bottom line is that it, connects the past with the present and increases the social connectedness. So, as a result of that, people that, feel more nostalgic or are more nostalgic perceive their life as more meaningful, which is also a pretty cool finding from our research. However, I have a bit of a warning for myself as well as for you, dear listener. If you fixate too much on the negative aspects of nostalgia, as I mentioned in the beginning, the loss, the disappointments, the days gone by, it can actually undermine the sense of meaning in the present, which, makes sense. If you focus too much on the negatives, if you focus too much on the stuff you've, lost, and you are kind of reimbursing this narrative that, oh, everything good I had is now gone, I won't ever live through something that good again, and stuff like that, it's no surprise that it actually works the other way around. And that is actually one of my closing points. That is where I would like to end this episode. Let's just maybe do a very quick summary of everything we've learned. So, nostalgia comes from ancient Greece. Apparently, it's been around for a very long time, but eventually it was named in 17th century. The view of nostalgia, the emotion, has gone through different stages. In history, it was viewed mainly as negative, but recently the view shifted into that it is perceived more positively, and the results of or the findings of different researchers indicate that the signature of nostalgic narrative is positive and actually can help mitigate the distress caused by negative effects and emotions such as loneliness, which is one of the triggers of nostalgia. So it seems that what it is mainly a reaction or a countermeasure to sad and negative emotions that we feel in our life, and maybe we should view it as such. We shouldn't view it as something sad and negative, but an opportunity to focus more on the good, on all the positive things we've been through. That is definitely something I will take away from this topic. for me, it is also important to remember not to focus on the negative and sad parts of nostalgia, and to simply view, if I'll be feeling nostalgic a lot, for example, to view it as sort of a messenger, trying to tell me that, you are maybe lacking some meaning in here. It can be a time to reorient or to connect again with old friends you haven't seen in a while. Stuff like that, put a positive twist on it. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this little dive into a particular topic today, and let me know what you think. Give me all your feedback. I'm super interested in what you have to say, and yeah, until next time, bye bye.